2015, after 17 years as the iconic host of The Daily Show, comedian Jon Stewart surprised everyone and announced he was stepping down.
It is time for someone else to have that opportunity.
And to take his place, he named a successor that no one saw coming. Hailing from South Africa, Trevor Noah was an outsider, an up-and-coming comedian with a unique voice that caught Jon's attention.
People in the township assumed that I was an albino.
And suddenly, all eyes were on him.
Good to see you.
So where did this kid from Johannesburg find the courage to carry on Jon Stewart's legacy and manage to carve out his own path towards breaking big? What makes people successful? What are the unexpected turns in life that propel people to greatness? I'm Carlos Watson, editor of OZY. I'm out to uncover the real secrets behind breaking big.
Roy, do me one favor. Your whole thing, because of the tone of it, make sure you're having fun. Be like, you know, it's that thing of like, really? Do we need another Mac? If McDonald's released another burger, do we need another Big Mac? Do we need another? You know what I'm saying? You're having the fun of stand-up. The premise is the joke.
Welcome to the show. This is a show on news and politics, but this is a comedy show, so laugh. Enjoy yourself. And if you have a weird laugh, let it out. You guys ready to make this show?
Talk to me about doing, some people would argue, the most coveted job in television comedy, certainly in the US.
For me, when I came into The Daily Show, one thing that was really unique is that Jon Stewart created an institution that undeniably changed satire on TV.
As you know, we went to Iraq for one reason, and for one reason only.
Planting the seeds of democracy.
That seed of democracy.
It wasn't about weapons of mass destruction or 9/11. It was about America.
I remember when I first started The Daily Show, watching Jon affect the world. I got so absorbed in the fear of failing that I didn't take enough time to enjoy the fact that I was hosting The Daily Show. One of the best things that helped me was there's a comedian that's one of the people I talked to before the gig started, pulled me aside one day and said, sit down, I'm gonna give you advice. I don't even know you, but I'm gonna give you advice. Don't forget to enjoy. Don't forget to enjoy being unknown. Don't forget to enjoy being a newcomer. Don't forget to enjoy people doubting you, because you won't get it back.
So tell me how you got into comedy.
Getting into it was a process. It was me seeing comedy shows in South Africa, telling jokes to friends and family.
Was anyone else around you funny? Like, was your dad funny or your mom funny?
Oh, my mom.
Laugh out loud funny or like quiet wit?
Consistently. I cannot deny that I'm a product of many of the things my mother put in place in my life. I wish I could give people the advice, which is have a great parent. You take that for granted.
Trevor was born in the township of Soweto in 1984. And after his father moved home to Switzerland, he was raised by his mother.
Where Trevor gets his fearlessness from, and also his ability to work hard, is certainly from his mother. I know his mom, I've met her a few times, and I definitely see that too.
I was born in South Africa during a time known as apartheid. Apartheid was a system of laws in the country designed to oppress people of color. My mother's a black woman, Xhosa woman from South Africa. My father's Swiss from Switzerland. And they got together during this time, which was against the law. They had me. I was, in essence, born a crime. But I didn't know that I didn't have freedom. My mother was giving me books at a young age. My mother loved learning languages, and so then I grew up speaking multiple languages. I grew up dirt poor, but I didn't think I was poor.
Would you, looking back, say you were happy? Did you ever have
I was very happy. You grow up and you start to understand fundamentally what your role is in society.
Growing up mixed in South Africa during apartheid certainly gave him a greater sensitivity and an empathy for both sides. You see that coming out in, his comedy. Not only can it be a lot of fun, but it's also something that people can grow and learn from as well.
As a poor child, you start to see how you can compensate for things you don't have. You may not have the money the other kids have, you may not have the abilities in sports, but the thing you do have is the ability to make people laugh.
I grew up in a mixed family, well, with me being the mixed one in the family.
In 2006, at the age of 22, when Trevor really began doing stand-up, it became clear that finding humor in his own life story would be his greatest tool.
My mom was obviously aspirational. She was like, yeah, I'm going to get a white man, yeah. And then my dad, well, you know how the Swiss love chocolate, so I mean,
And so as your comedy career took off, were they cheering along?
Initially, she thought that I was selling drugs. The job description just didn't make sense to her.
Okay.
She would go, so you go away at night, and then you don't work during the day. You're never working. And then you just have money. And what do you say you do? You just talk to people? And she asked me, she said, are you selling drugs? I said, I'm not selling drugs, I'm telling jokes. And she's like, I don't think people would pay for that.
But then black people never get a break. Ever notice that? You'll say stuff and then they'll fix it. You'll be like, yeah, that is when I realized that it was better for us to be part of management. No, Jabu, management. Eh?
The first time I met him was after he came off stage at a comedy club called Cool Runnings in Johannesburg. Really cheap to get in, cheap beers, you come in and you had to do new material, only new material.
But I know people never want to think of it. No, Mandela doesn't get drunk. No, Mandela doesn't fart. His bum just suggests things.
People were like, this can't possibly be new material that you're saying because it was so good.
Someone came up to us and like, is this a trick? You planned this? Where are you from?
I may have been that person going like, did you just make that up now for the first time?
But there's no money involved. What kind of, are we like pool sharks of comedy? But the comedians, once they got over that idea, were really quick to embrace me and said, hey, you should go to this place, you should do comedy here, here's a few contacts. It was a very inclusive scene because of how small it was. So I started touring in South Africa and then, the southern African countries, Namibia and to Zambia, and I'm so familiar with our cultures and everything that we are resonates with me as a person. So that gives me a leg up and I speak many of the languages.
Have you done comedy in different languages?
Yeah, I have. I mean, in South Africa, we have 11 official languages. And we switch between languages in one show, which is even more fun. Start a sentence in English and then switch to Zulu, maybe pop into Tswana or Tsonga, and then it ended off in Afrikaans.
Hey, ek praat net om vir jou te sê dat ek nie Afrikaans kan praat nie.
And so now, in a country where everybody's divided, if you're the person who can speak all of the languages, you immediately possess something that not many people do.
In post-apartheid South Africa, where universally relatable topics were rare, there was an appetite for Trevor's accessible brand of humor. But he was quickly reminded of the complicated dynamics within the burgeoning comedy scene when he tried to break new ground with a one-man show.
I was working on a film for my thesis for film school, and it was going to be on stand-up comedy in South Africa. Back in 2008, it was very new. It's still fairly new compared to everywhere else that you see stand-up comedy. And the film ended up being specifically about him in his preparation for his first stand-up special in Johannesburg.
Trevor's been in comedy for, 2 to 3 years now? And ordinarily, I would not recommend for a comedian to do a one-man show at this stage of his career.
It took me 20 years to get a start. That's the problem with young comedians. They haven't learned the art of comedy.
Sure, if you've been doing it for a long time, now you got this young guy coming up and like selling out big theaters, and you're definitely gonna have a general resentment.
The arrogance that this man shows.
He's not a comic, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't ever think you should focus nor allow people to tell you how fast or slow you should move in life. Because if you wait for people to tell you when it's your turn, you will never get it.
If you want to be great, you have to take risks. You have to do something that's not the, well-worn path. You have to do something that could end in catastrophic failure, but you hope it doesn't. And I think that, when Trevor said, like, okay, I'm going to do this thing that could be a complete public disaster, it was exactly the sort of thing that I think, high achievers are willing to do.
Just weeks before the biggest opportunity of his life, Trevor faced the kind of tragedy that would put the future of his career in jeopardy.
It was a really hard story to share, but I grew up in a home where my mother remarried after my father, so I had a stepfather now, and he was a man who suffered from, his addiction to alcohol and became very abusive. And that abuse culminated in my mother being shot by him in the head. The bullet miraculously didn't damage any nerves, didn't affect her brain. As the doctor said, he said, I hate using this term because I'm a man of science, but this was a miracle. So go home and live your life.
No reserves, no regrets. You learn, you live but once. That's how I know I don't cry about the past. I'm very grateful and I'm at peace with my past.
It was an extremely traumatizing experience, not just for myself, but for my family, for my younger brothers at the time. I think one of the only reasons we came through it as strong as we did as a family was because my mom is a rock, and she would constantly counsel me. She would sit with me and we would talk about it.
Let's not lose who we are.
I agree.
Ah,
What do you mean?
bueno.
After my mom was shot, she's the one who basically went, no man, things need to keep running, things need to keep going. She was in the hospital, and I was like, I can't go make people laugh after this. I was like, I have to chill with you and stuff. She's like, no, you need to go out there and make money. I was like, forget money. And she was like, no, maybe now's a good time to tell you I don't have medical aid. And I was like, oh wow, okay, maybe I should go out and make some money.
In October of 2009, with his path more clear than ever, Trevor stepped on stage for 2 nights of sold-out shows and gave the performance of a lifetime.
When that in the UK, I was performing at a few shows backstage with a comedian. We got to talking, and halfway through, he was like, Trevor, you've got a really strange accent, Trevor. Are you Zulu?
I don't know how he even functioned, but I think comedy is therapeutic for him. And that's why he pushed forward. And his mom was like, don't let something like this hold you back from doing what you need to do.
I said, no, but close, I'm actually coloured. He was like, oh, don't say that. That's racist, Trevor. The new kids are calling themselves now.
He did extremely well because he brought the country together. Everybody could identify with this person. He was telling everybody's story at the same time. He was such a natural talent that I thought, here is a rocket ship, and you want to get on it.
Responding to these challenges when they happen to us, there is a tremendous opportunity for growth. Nietzsche said, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger, and I have heard literally the same words come out of the mouths of people that I have studied who exemplify passion and perseverance.
Following the breakout success of his one-man show, The Daywalker, Trevor's career did take off. And over the next few years, the world opened up to him. As he traveled, Trevor realized the thing that set him apart in his hometown would become his superpower as a comedian, his unique and global perspective. And as he honed in on that, people began to pay attention.
From Comedy Central's World News headquarters in New York, this is The Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
We're always looking for correspondents, contributors, people that are like exciting new voices to put on the show. We had watched Trevor, we called John in, and we only called John in when it was somebody really good.
Are people starving in Africa? I do understand this. But I do commercials. Why do they always have to have these people with the fly? What is up with that fly? Fly's on the top lip. It's always on the top. How do they get the fly? I've tried. It's very difficult to get a fly just on your top lip.
And he goes, yep, shut it off. We got that guy. That guy's gonna take my chair. This was 2 years before John announced he was leaving. And we were like, what? Is John leaving? What's going on? And he's, no, I just mean he's really good. Like, he's great stage presence. He's such an interesting voice. And then became the year of me trying to track down Trevor Noah.
I was, at the time, doing my tour of the UK. I received a call. A voice said, hey, Trevor, this is Jon Stewart. I'm a comedian from America. And I said, yeah, I know who Jon Stewart is. Is this a prank? Is this a friend? And he said, I've watched your comedy. I was wondering if you were interested in popping over and maybe trying to work with us. And I said, oh, man, I'm sorry to tell you, but I'm busy. I said, I'm flattered, but I'm busy.
Is that, you think, genuinely just because you didn't realize how big it was, or was it because your heart was elsewhere?
I think oftentimes in life we pursue the dreams and goals of others. We stop one day and wonder why we're unhappy. I knew I loved traveling. I still do. I enjoyed doing stand-up, loved it with all my heart, and I wanted to make people laugh. So if I was doing that, why would I give that up to do something else? John said to me, I understand, God bless you. Do me this favor, whenever you're in New York, look me up and maybe come by and say hi. I said, thank you very much, I'll do that.
Turning down such an offer, while it sounds crazy, there are other examples of entertainers who've walked away from an amazing amount of money and exposure. Dave Chappelle, being one very famously. So I think that Trevor probably had to have that come to Jesus moment with the creators and understand that whatever was going to be presented on that show was going to be something that he could live with and not just merely walk away with a bunch of money.
Without fully realizing it, Trevor passed up on an offer from one of the biggest names in American comedy. But he did eventually make his way back to the States, and as promised, he looked up Jon Stewart.
A year after trying to get him, he finally came to hang out for a day. He told us all about his stand-up and how he has to change his act slightly for different countries. It was so interesting. And every time we get a new contributor, we're trying to incorporate their voice with the voice of the show and how that voice plays off John's voice.
John said we both questioned the world and we came to similar conclusions using completely different methods. That's one thing John and I always laughed about. Here you are in two different worlds, and yet we've gotten to the same places.
We are very pleased to welcome our newest contributor from South Africa, Mr. Trevor Noah. Trevor, thanks for joining us. Nice to see you. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much. How are you?
I gotta be honest, John. Africa's worried about you guys. You know what African mothers tell their children every day? Be grateful for what you have, because there are fat children starving in Mississippi.
Shortly after finding his bearing as a contributor on The Daily Show, Trevor's new boss dropped a bombshell.
That's our show. Join us tomorrow night, 11. Now, 17 years is the longest I have ever in my life held a job by 16 years and 5 months.
It is time for someone else to have that opportunity. And,
John telling everyone he was leaving was, I bawled. I knew he was done, and it's a very taxing job. But we had this moment of, nobody can do this show. Who can be John?
I had known that there was definitely a possibility. I know his segments that he had done as a contributor had gone really well. And then I got that call that he was, being considered.
Well, I was with him in Dubai when they had one too many. Now, Trevor is the least drinking person in the world. 2 glasses of wine a month kind of guy. What could have possibly happened? I was the downer guy. I was like, you need to stop partying so hard. Pull yourselves together.
Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm gonna be the new host of The Daily Show.
Okay, don't pull yourselves together, because it's a party.
they have hired a new Daily Show host, Mr. Trevor Noah.
Why do you think you got chosen? Because a reasonable person would not have probably thought of you as the most obvious candidate.
Well, I think because John's not a reasonable person.
Trevor Noah will earn your trust and respect.
or not.
I don't think many people could look at this Jewish guy from New Jersey and think, oh, he's similar to a South African mixed-race kid. Jon saw beyond that and went like, no, you remind me of myself. I think you'd be right for the job.
With that endorsement from Jon Stewart, Trevor found the confidence to take the reins of an American TV mainstay and make it his own.
November 30th, 2015. From Comedy Central's World News headquarters in New York, this is The Daily Show with Trevor Noah.
Before we get started, I just wanted to say a few things. First of all, I never dreamed that I would one day have, well, two things, really. An indoor toilet and a job as host of The Daily Show. And
despite Trevor's optimism, critics in the industry were waiting for him to fail.
So when Trevor got announced, there was all the haters or whatever saying like, this is not the guy, he's not funny, etc., all the stuff you expect.
He entered like a lion's pit when he was named the host of The Daily Show because so many people loved Jon Stewart so much and he was so different from Jon Stewart. And here was this new person who wasn't American and who they were just still getting to know.
the Mets made the playoffs. Yeah. I don't know what that is, but Jon told me it would work.
I'll be like, oh, the press said something bad, and look at this article, and he's like, no stress. And I'm like, oh, I'm stressed. I don't want them to say that about you. And he's like, we're having fun here. Don't pay no attention. I look back on it, and I'm like, we had to get somebody from another country who didn't know how much people would be upset that Jon Stewart wasn't on the show anymore to ignore it and just keep plowing through it.
They say comedy's all about timing, and what unfolded next, it was tailor-made for Trevor's rise to stardom.
See, what I have is a winning temperament. I have a winning temperament.
You're already into the election season. We're like, oh, it might be Jeb, it's gonna be Jeb Hillary. And he kept looking at Trump and going, no, guys, that's the guy. And we were like, no, that is not the guy.
I was like, man, this guy's good. I remember the writers' room in the Daily Show looking at me like I was crazy. They're like, what do you mean he's good? They're like, this guy's an idiot.
He's a joke. He's gonna drop out by September. Like, this is not the guy. This is stunt. He's gonna get ratings for The Apprentice. Like, we all had all these theories. And Trevor kept looking at him and he's like, no, I've seen that before.
What I'm trying to say is Donald Trump is presidential. He just happens to be running on the wrong continent. In fact, once you realize that Trump is basically the perfect African president, you start to notice the similarities everywhere.
I'm really rich. I am the one who has got the money.
We will be winning all the time. We will have so much winning if I get elected.
I feel like I'm winning.
He called it. It was crazy. None of us thought that Trump was gonna win. And that African dictator thing was one of the first things that was like, well, nobody else is gonna do this headline, you know, and nobody else is gonna cover Trump this way.
Trevor Noah serves a really important cultural touchstone right now because this country is so divided. He, in many ways, can be a voice of a slight outsider who can come to America in the 21st century and say, like, your president is really insane, and here's why.
I never realized when it was happening, Trump was strangely enough enabling me to do the show that I always wanted to do, to give America more of a view from a global perspective.
Appreciate you coming. Thank you very much for coming out.
20 years from now, any thoughts about where you'll be?
I never do that. Where do you see yourself now? That's what I ask myself. This is the fun part. This is the enjoyment. Stop and enjoy this view, and stop and look at these trees and explore and take these steps. And then when you get to the top, that's just the cherry, that's the bonus. But this is it here. This is where I see myself now. And then in 20 years, you can ask me the same question.
And so, like, who were some of your heroes?
I mean, for me, the first time I saw a comedian that blew my mind was Eddie Murphy. My friend said, oh, you do stand-up comedy, I should bring you an Eddie Murphy DVD. And I remember he brought me Raw. And
that's the one that got you.
Eddie as a kid was always amazing for me. You got my eyes, you can have it. Got no eyes, cause you're on welfare. You can't afford it.